All right, welcome back. I think this is episode 8. Today, we have some wiring to be done. We got a wiring harness. I'm not quite sure what I'm getting myself into here. I'm gonna plug it up and see what I need to do, whether I have to delume it and redo some wiring, or if it's a simple just plug it in and good to go. But I am pretty sure this does have a transmission part. So we really just gotta take this thing apart and see what we're working with here. We got our ECU too. I'm not quite sure where we're gonna put the ECU, because I'm sure it's gonna bolt it up around where the, or it'll be somewhere around this area. So I don't know what I'm gonna do with that yet, but again, really don't know what I'm getting myself into here. So this is very new for me. I've built an engine before, but I did not have to do the wiring harness. So this is new to me. I mean, all this has been new to me. I shouldn't say that. A lot of these things have been new to me, not all of it, but this one in particular. Because I do think I'm gonna have to delume this and rewire it however so need be. Alright, sweet. So this is a Gen 4 wiring harness. Dude, they labeled everything. It's pretty nice, actually. Everything is labeled, so I'm assuming grommet seal. This is where it's gonna come to the cabin here. Dang, bro. Got me a fuse block. I really did want to try and make my own wiring harness, but honestly, I do think this is the smartest way to go. This is also a lot cheaper. And this is where it's gonna connect to our ECU right here. Gray goes gray, black goes black. This is what a Gen 4 harness looks like, at least where it connects to the ECU, is this right here. E85 signal, huh? I'm assuming that's for referring to E85, which we aren't. So again, I do think I'm gonna have to delume this, even though it's really, really nice, and take some stuff apart. So this is gonna be really interesting. This is, I haven't done this before. Okay, so we got it up here. I went and I looked. So pretty much every single eBay wiring harness has a harness for the transmission too. But the issue is because with the transmission, there is a third plug, because some of the ECU, Gen 4 ECUs have a plug for the transmission too. So I'm wondering if I should go and I should buy a transmission ECU instead of this other ECU I have currently. At least so I could just plug this in. But then again, it's also just like, can I just delume this and take out all of the transmission parts? I don't know. So anyways, I did some research, I looked at the manual to see kind of how this thing goes in. It's supposed to be ECU and the fuse block goes in the cabin. And all of this is gonna be out front here. I'm not quite sure what this is for. It's a big plug though. Is it a oil pressure? No, it's way too big. They didn't label this one. Okay, so I'm back. I figured it out. So this is a Gen 4 harness, so it is the right harness. However, the reason why this sensor, or this plug here for the cam sensor is wrong is because it's for the DOD. And yeah, there is a plug that goes in here, but there's a separate like little harness, because there's one that plugs here, another one that plugs into the for the variable valve timing, or the, I don't remember what it was. I'm pretty sure it was variable valve timing. And that all came into one harness that this plugged into. So you gotta get a little adapter piece. I already ordered it. It was like 10 bucks on Amazon. That's gonna get here sometime next week. So I will be able to plug that into there. Also, I had the harness on backwards. So it's kind of confusing because they say left-hand side and you think, oh, left-hand side, that's this side. But they're talking about it from the back of the engine. So this is left-hand side. So it's as if you're sitting in the car. Two ways I know that's the case, because in the paper it says that or in the instructions, it says that these ground wires are supposed to bolt onto the driver's side head, which is this one right here. So that's one way I knew, because obviously these aren't going to reach all over there. And also because the ECT plug right here wouldn't reach when it was over there. So that was the other reason I knew that. So that's pretty much it. And when I did it, everything did seem a lot like better. Like everything just fit better. So yeah. So as far as modifying this wiring harness, I'm gonna have to delume only the big part. because I am going to take out the transmission plug here and the transmission controls, because these that were originally in the front actually belong on the back, and these are the transmission controls, these 3 plugs here. So that's why I was confused by them. So I am going to delume it from here. I know I hate to do it, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to try and find some heat shrinks. I want it to be like just the way I found it. So I'm going to get some loom, get some heat shrink, and I'm going to delume it starting from right up here. So cut this right here, cut it all the way down to here, and then I should just be able to delume it. I'm going to try not damage the grommet. So delume it, take this out, loom it back up, and that should be the only thing I got to really modify. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about the oil pressure, because I want to run an aftermarket oil pressure gauge. So I could run a different sensor for the oil pressure somewhere else, but typically those are on the oil filter housing, and I'm not crazy about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to run it right here, where I'm going to take out the old sensor and plug it in there. So that way I can read it, because I don't believe the engine actually uses oil pressure to determine anything. It's just for the gauges. However, I'm not going to do that if one of these various under dash wires are for oil pressure, because then I'll just use that. But they don't label it, they just say under dash wires. They don't tell you what they're for. So it's going to be really fun trying to figure out what the heck these wires are for. It doesn't even say in the instructions what the wires are for. So that's going to be interesting. They gave you no BD2 port. That's pretty cool. But yeah, we're going to delume it, take out this. And it looks like our ignition right here. Not quite sure what that's all for, but... And I still got to figure out what this yellow E85 signal is for. But yeah, that's everything so far. Okay, so I'm back from doing a little store AutoZone run, or O'Reilly's run. So I don't know where I stopped off on the last time I recorded, so I'm just gonna go over this. So map sensor, game plan for this obviously does not plug into our map sensor. So either we're gonna go to the junkyard and we're gonna either A, get a generation 4 sensor, B, get a generation 4 or generation 3 pigtail, or buy an adapter piece. That's the game plan for that. That should plug into our throttle body, which will be here Tuesday. This, we already bought an adapter, so this can plug into this. That's going to get here soon, because just for the reason this is wrong, because this is for variable valve timing, not the non-variable valve timing. So it's going to get here. Coils, we're going to the junkyard to grab coils and coil brackets and the coil harness. Already got these 2 grounded. We're going to get oxygen sensors before we fire it up. And coming over here, let's go to the battery, and we'll get to the transmission stuff later. This and this and this and this. And then for the under dash wires, these are all for the gauges. I overlooked it. They did write down in here what they are all for, right here. So they did tell you what they're all for. So good to know, good to know, good to know. Okay, so transmission. So on some generation 4 ECUs, there's a 4th plug for this, which is for the transmissions. We are not running a 460 LE transmission or a 480 LE, whatever the part number is. We are running our factory manual CD9. So we will not need any of these wiring bits. So all of this is for the transmission, and this is for the transmission. So here's the game plan. We're going to snip, 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 open up the you know what I mean, the sheath, if you want to call it that. I don't know why I'm forgetting the loom. We're going to cut open the loom. We're going to fish out these wires, and then we're going to reloom it. So that is the game plan. I would not loom it, and I would just try to cut it, but it looks like they have all electrical tape together. So I don't think I'm just going to be able to, like, pull the wires out, unfortunately. I mean, I guess we could try it first and see if we can just pull them out. But if not, we're just going to have to cut the loom open and pull them all out by hand. So let's go ahead and get started with that. This is going to be fun. This is going to be so much fun. All right, so cut this part off of the wiring harness. Cut this part off of the wiring harness. Here they are there. We deloomed it. Took off the electrical tape. Looks like they only have the electrical tape on the thick parts, like here and here. So we took it all off there. But the thin parts there isn't. So there shouldn't be any more electrical tape holding this in, just the heat shrink. So I'm hoping I can just pull these wires through instead of having to cut the heat shrink, 'cause I really don't want to cut the heat shrink. And once it's all said and done, we'll put this back on, or we'll wrap this in tape, put the loom back on, and then wrap the loom in tape so the loom is nice and how I found it. So, yep, that's the game plan. And if it all goes wrong and the loom can't go back on, then I'll probably have to buy loom. And then we'll just have to switch that section of the loom out with new loom. No big deal if we gotta do that. Okay, so I'm running into a lot of confusion here. We deloomed it. We fished out all the wires. We didn't have to cut the heat shrink, which is nice. There's some wires that I couldn't fish all the way out because some of them went to the ECU. Some of them went to the OBD2. I took out the ones for the OBD2, and I even took out the pins for it. But apparently those pins, which is number 6, number 14, that's for the KAN, or the CAN, the can, the high can, low can. I took them out, figured, oh, they're probably for the transmission. I looked it up, did some research. Apparently that's for the actual OBD2 to work. So apparently on the Gen 4s, the transmission, TCM, and the ECU share the same can. So I cut these wires right here, had to tape them off because that pink one's getting stuck in there, I think. It wasn't wanting to come out all the way, so I didn't want to fight it. This orange one, I think, I'm not quite sure didn't find out where the orange one went, but it also would not budge at all. And then there are the 2 ones that go to the OBD2. This went straight into this plug that would plug into your TCM. So those were the can lines. The can lines were coming from the TCM. And I'm assuming there are 2 more can lines that come out of here and go into the ECU. So here's a game plan. Find out where those can lines are. They're on the ECU, which are probably one of the ones I snipped. You can't see them because they're behind the sleeve here. But it's probably one of the ones that I cut because there were a few wires, I think like 4 or 5 wires, that were coming from this connector over to the ECU connector right here. So here's the game plan. I'm gonna hop on Modal Logic, I'm gonna look up some wiring diagrams, and I'm gonna try and figure out which ones are for the can. Or I'll figure it out on here, because in this one I can take this apart and actually see which of these pins is for the KNN, or the can. I keep saying can. Find those wires, rewire them into the OBD2. I literally pulled out, I shouldn't have done it, but I literally pulled out the pins. That's not the one I was looking at. It was this one right here. Here's one of them. I literally pulled it out. So I'm gonna have to try and reuse these if possible. And I'll just slap it right back in. I don't think I damaged any of them when I pulled them out. So they should go back in. This one's a little iffy. But they should go back in. I'm trying to reuse these. Really sucks that I did that though. But yeah, I'm looking up some wiring diagrams, trying to find those can lines coming from the ECU and plug them directly into the OBD2 from there. And that should be it. So this is a lot more fun than I thought it would be. I'm hoping I can get this done tonight. I mean, I'm not in a rush, but it would be nice if I could have this all tidied up back tonight. Okay, so we're back. Again, don't remember where I left off last time I was recording. It's been a while. So I did some research, and I don't know what, again, I remember I said, so just might be repeating myself. So I took out 2 plugs on this. They were the KAN line, the can lines. It shared can with the TCM. So I had to go pull up some diagrams and try to find the can lines on the factory, or just the ECU and not the TCM. And so it was kind of tricky because GM doesn't call them can line, or sorry, I keep saying lines, I mean wires. They're not can wires, they are it's like GMLAN, something weird. I'm pretty sure that was it. It was GMLAN. That's what it was. And there was a high and there was a low. So I found some diagrams, and it's connector 1, which I don't know which one connector 1 is, but it's number 20, pin 27 and 28, I think. Let me look. So here you go. I pulled them up on the computer. So we have 28, which is the high, and you can see what's called there, ECM high-speed serial data bus, the GMLA, and that's what it is right there. So it's 28, and it is 27 right there. So this is connector 1. I don't know which one connector 1 is. It tells me that it's tan and black and just tan. But obviously, this is an aftermarket wiring harness. I don't know if it's going to be tan and black. It might be something else. So this is going to be really fun to figure it out, which is what. But I'm probably going to figure out which connector is connector 1. I'm going to take that connector apart, find the wire, and then rewire that back to the OBD2 port. And then we should have working OBD2. And then that should be it for the wiring. Then I'll be able to loom all this back up. Which, I mean, I probably can go ahead and loom this back up, but... Oh, man, it's cold. I'm going to leave it for now. But yeah, I'll get back to you. So where it comes out of here... So to put this simply, before I even started cutting things, so these two again, so this white and this tan wire, this is the KAN, this is for the OBD2. So before I even cut anything, originally these two were coming from the plug, number 1 plug onto the your ECU here. It was going up to your transmission computer through this wire right here. It's going through here. If you look closely, you can see them in there. It went into here and went into your transmission computer. Then it came back from the transmission computer, so it came back down from there to your connector right here. So all you're gonna do is, when you cut this out, is literally where it comes up from your OBD2 port. Oh, I can't find it. It comes up the OBD2 through right here. It comes up and around, and then it comes out right here. And that goes to your plug for your computer. And then this one right here, it comes out and it goes up to your plug for the actual module on the transmission. And you're going to take the one that was coming from that plug and the one that was going to this plug. Or my bad, hang on. You're going to take the one that's coming from the OBD2, which is the 2 up here. I'm so confused. Okay, so honestly, I'm kind of confused because I don't know why, because this is going to the plug. This one's going to the... I'm very, very confused because I thought that this one was going to the transmission TCM. Alright, so we're back. It's the next day. I have some more wiring tools with me so we can actually get this wiring done. So I kind of figured this thing out. So let's go ahead and explain this. So basically, we got our wiring harness here. All we are doing when you buy this wiring harness is you are trimming the transmission accessories out of the wiring harness. So you're taking out the plugs for the actual transmission and the plug for the TCM, because we're not running a TCM. So there's only one thing you got to do after you've trimmed it all out. So once you've trimmed out, I'm gonna go ahead and just write it up here. Hold on. We just got the head strap on so we can visualize this. So we're gonna visualize this for all our viewers. So this is our ECM. This is our TCM, and then this is our OBD2 port. So the KAN lines, sorry, I keep saying K, the CAN lines, these are the communication lines between the ECM, the TCM, and the OBD2. What this is responsible for is so that your scanner actually works when you plug it in, and this is where it's getting all its information, like engine codes and everything, basically. GM calls it the GMLAN wires instead. There's 2 of them. There's a high, which would be a plus, and there's a low, which would be a negative. So these 2 wires on this particular wiring harness are going to be a white and a tan. I did not put them side by side intentionally. I don't actually know if the white's the positive and the tan is the negative, but all I know, one of them's white, one of them is tan. So here's how they run basically, because the TCM and the ECM share the same the same wires for the KAN, or for the data link, whatever you want to call it. So it comes from the ECM to the TCM, then from the TCM to the OBD2, and we're taking out the TCM. So what we're doing here is we are unplugging the TCM, and we're also unplugging all the wires that are running to the actual transmission here. So we are obviously cutting all this out of our wiring harness. So when we take all this out, you can see the CAN line, the CAN wires are no longer connected to the OBD2, so our OBD2 will no longer work. So all we got to do is just find the wires coming from the ECM that we're going to the TCM, which are pretty easy to find. If you can't find them, it's pin number 27 and 28 on the second plug, which, let me verify, I do believe the second plug is going to be the black one, which I'm pretty sure that's right. Yes, the black one. So it's going to be your black one. This plug right here, that's your second plug. And that one, the 27th to the 28th pin, is going to be your CAN line. So you find those, then you find the wires, and you can trace them. And then all you got to do is where you cut it, just reconnect them. And that's literally it. And then your OBD2 will be working. However, don't be frightened when you unplug it. These aren't going to be the only lines coming from the ECM. There's actually more than just the CAN wires coming from the ECM to the TCM. There's also a few. There's one for like vehicle speed. There's another for there's gonna be another, I think for man, I gotta think, speed, I think RPM, so those are gear it's in, the neutral safety switch, and these are just a few of them. There's a couple more. Those wires were just for the TCM to get information from the ECM. So those, you can cut them and you can just tape them off. If you want to go ahead and take everything apart, which I'm not going to do. You know, I don't like taping it off. The only reason I am taping it off is because I don't want to have to take off the heat shrink, because it's like some really big, beefy, and it just looks really secure, and I don't really want to mess with it. So you can tape these off and you'll be just fine. And that's pretty much it. From the top of the end of the TCM, where it plugs into the transmission, all those cut wires, I think there's really only going to be one left over, and that's going to be a black wire that was going to the ground, to the cylinder head. I left that, I cut it, it's kind of snug in there, it's hard to see. But I cut it and I taped it off, and I'm leaving it there because, say I need a ground for something, I think it'd be a lot cleaner if I could just find that wire and ground it there, so it's actually going into the wiring harness. So I'm going to leave that there for ground if I need a ground for anything. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So shave out your TCM stuff, your transmission stuff, and literally just reconnect the CAN wires from the ECM to the OBD2, and you're golden. So that is all we are doing here. However, me being me and not taking my time and being patient, I took out the pins for it. So I got to put those pins back in, and I got to rewire them, because you can see them right here. It's this tan one and this white one. It's a really bright tan, so it might look like it's white, but I promise you it's a tan. And on the factory wiring harness, it's going to be a tan and a black wire. So that's pretty much it. So all we are doing is we're going to have to connect these back into here, and we are literally taking them. You can see them in the wiring harness. It's this wire, these two right here, this tan and this white one, and then this tan and this white one right here. So we are literally just connecting these, because these two up here, my fingers are on, these two are going to your OBD2. These two are coming from the plug. So all we were doing is we were literally just connecting these back, and that should bypass the TCM. And then obviously you're gonna get it tuned to get rid of all the transmission stuff, so it's not freaking out, wondering why it's not getting signals from all of these wires over here, which is just these ones. I don't remember where these orange ones went. I think they went back. I think these orange ones went to the transmission, so the ECM can get information from the transmission, like the vehicle speed and something else. I'm not sure what that second one would be for. And then these, I think this pink one is honestly just stuck in here, because I'd pull it and it got real. I don't know if it was. I think it's just stuck, and I didn't want to fight it and pull everything out. So, and this orange one, I'm pretty sure is running to this fuse box. I could be wrong. This orange one could also be running to the ECM for information for your safety neutral switch, but or it could be running the fuse block. And if so, it'd be this one. And if that were the case, I can actually look at the paper and see what it tells me on here. because it'll probably say what that's for. So it looks like it's this very bottom one, this very bottom 10, I guess the very top 10, and it's gonna be a TCM battery constant. So okay, so that's right. So this wire, this orange wire is running into this fuse block. So I could fish that out, but I'm honestly just gonna leave it. But yeah, so we're gonna tape the rest of them. We're gonna reconnect the CAN lines, the CAN wires, and we're gonna tape the rest of them off. Get it back in. I'm gonna tape it and get it underneath the sheathing here, so it looks really clean, because I don't want it to be just dangling around. I want this to look as professional as possible, even if we are doing this on a budget. So let's go ahead and let's get straight into it. So right now, all I'm gonna be doing is reconnecting those wires and just putting everything back the way it's supposed to be, and I'll show you the final product once it is all done of what this wiring harness should look like. So literally reconnect, and we're gonna relume all of this. All right, so we just finished up the wiring harness. It's all done. We fixed the OBD2. We got those pins back in, so that should work now. We reloomed everything here. So this is all looking very good, very good. And that's pretty much it. So we just reloomed it. We got the wires reconnected. They're underneath this area of the braid. We tucked and taped off the wires that we're sharing between the TCM and the ECM. We fixed the OBD2. I even grabbed an OBD2 scanner and plugged it in, and it plugs in nicely. So the wiring harness is complete. We shouldn't have to modify or strip this wiring harness anymore. That's all the crap. Hang on, we got more than that. This. Some more stuff, hang on. What's on here? This is all that we took out of it there. And that's pretty much it. A couple of other little things, but this is the most of it right here. That's all we took out of the wiring harness. That's all we stripped it of. So it is literally all good to go. So, some other things. The oil pressure sensor is only used for the variable valve timing. So if you're not running variable valve timing, you technically don't need to run this. So I've seen some people take this out and just have the sensor for the gauge go straight into there. However, it is still good to have that. It's still good to see that, especially if you got your OBD2 thing plugged up and you're reading things. It's good to have your oil pressure gauge on there still. So the correct thing to do, which is what I'm going to do, is that you can buy a little adapter where it's got some screws in there. This screws on this, and it's got a port for your gauge. So that's what I will be doing. So I was gonna strip this out too, but I'm gonna leave that in there. That's pretty much it. That is everything. We got adapters on the way. We're going to the junkyard tomorrow. We're gonna pick up the stuff for the map and the coil. So yeah, it's coming along. It's coming along nicely.